It's Monday, November the 18th. Welcome to the show, Picks and Parlays here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and also streaming live on iHeartRadio, streaming live on TuneIn and live video for you on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. I'm your host, Nick Geber, and as Michael W. commented last week, I'm the elitist that replaced the nice young lady Chelsea Messenger. And if you ever wonder who it is, I want to hashtag right now, who is the elitist? Well, folks, that's me. And, you know, I had a wonderful weekend of elitism, I might say. I spent a weekend wine tasting in Sonoma, California, a most fabulous weekend, far away from the rough and tumble of college football and the NFL. But never mind, folks, I am ready for the show, and we have a big one here for you today. Coming up after the break, we're going to look at some NFL and some college football opening line reports in our segment, Craigulation Time, with Craig El Guapo Trapp. Then, you know, he loves it when you call him Hig Daddy. That's right. Our very own Sean Higgs Higgs will join us for some college football. We're going to talk about NC State at Georgia Tech, Penn State at Ohio State, and Texas A&M at Georgia. And then, of course, hear him roar, El Tigre, Tony Tellez. We'll be talking some NBA and college basketball. Those are what the topics are on the table for today. We certainly hope you will participate in the show. You can do that by tuning into any one of our social media platforms where you will see the show being streamed live and comment in the comment section. You know, rude is okay, just not too rude. As you can see, your elitist is ready for it anytime. Loads of free picks today. Make sure you get your pen and paper handy, unless you're driving, in which case don't you dare. If you miss any of this, of course, it's all up on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And, of course, our podcast is up at the Believe Podcast Network right after the show. All right, those are the games that we're talking about. And I didn't actually mention which NBA games we were talking about because it was kind of a last-minute change. But we are going to talk about Golden State, Memphis, the Phoenix Suns against Sacramento Kings, and we have Vermont at Virginia for college basketball. So there you have it, facebook.com/picks parlays. And if you want to join the discussion, try hashtag parlay radio or hashtag who is the elitist will also work for you. That's right. And we will put your comment on the screen and I will do my very best to respond to it in a non-elitist sort of way. All right, going to take a break. Be right back to kick it off here with Craigulation Time on Picks and Parlays. Stay with us. Welcome back to Picks and Parlays here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network. Also broadcasting live on iHeart Radio, TuneIn Radio, and live video streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm your host, Nick Geber. Find me on Twitter at Nick Geber. Before we start, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Republic of Latvia Proclamation Day, a very, very exciting day on the annual calendar. I'd like to welcome to the show El Guapo himself, Craig Trapp, for a segment we like to call Craigulation Time. Craig, how are you celebrating Republic of Latvia Proclamation Day today?
Well, I don't get to celebrate like you did this weekend going to wine country, but I'm sure there's a lot of husbands going to be taking some slack because they don't take their wife or girlfriends out like you did.
Actually, she took me out, Craig, so how nice was that? Oh, I know. Once again, who is the elitist? Right here. Okay, Craig, we got a lot to get to today. We're going to talk some opening lines. We're going to do some NFL and some college football opening lines. Why don't we start with the NFL opening lines? A couple of ones that stood out, and I know we're going to cover about 6 of them here. But let's start with the Bucs at Falcons. The Buccaneers 3-7, the Falcons 3-7. The Falcons have won 5 straight against the Bucs. The Bucs are both 0-3 against the spread and 0-3 straight up. I think you had a slightly different number than I did on this one, actually. You said this started at the Falcons -3, shifting to -4.5. Looks like everyone's jumping on the Falcon bandwagon there.
Yeah, a couple good games in a row the Falcons have, and now everybody's jumping back on board. In fact, here's some people, fans of the Atlanta Falcons, saying they're going to run the table and make the playoffs. I don't know about that. The Bucs, of course, full of turnovers. That's always the key with this Tampa Bay Bucs team, including last week's loss at the Saints. These inter-division matchups in the South, NFC South, are always close, though.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next one. Let's do the Colts at Texans. The Colts 4-1-1 against the spread on the road. This one opened at Houston -5.5, and that's narrowed down now to Houston -3.5. Why the narrowing?
I think it's more just that Houston did not look good against Baltimore. I mean, no one's really looked good against Baltimore as of late. Baltimore is one of the hottest teams in the NFL. So I think there's a little overreaction here. Also, I think Jacoby Brissett, this Colts team is just different when he's the quarterback, and I assume that he'll be even more healthy this week. So I think there's a little overreaction as far as the Texans. But, it's still within that key number. So, to me, once you go over 3 and you're under 6, to me, those don't really matter to me.
All right, next up, let's do Dolphins at Browns. Now, how much is weather going to be an impact in this game, Craig? Because I'm reading that they're expecting the temperature in the low 40s, which, could be an issue for those lovely, humid Miami folks, the Dolphins. This one opened at the Browns -9, and that's widened now to -10.5.
Well, obviously, the Browns coming off that Thursday melee at the end of the game, and their star defensive end Garrett's going to be suspended for the rest of the season, unless something really weird happens with his appeal. But I don't expect that to change. I was kind of surprised this line went from 9 to 10.5. This Miami Dolphins team's been pretty good against the number the last 5 or 6 weeks. But like you said, when Miami plays north of the border, when it's cold, the last 4 or 5 years has not been good performances from Miami. So could be something to watch later in the week.
All right, next up, let's do the Panthers at the Saints. And well, interestingly enough for me, the Panthers have been upset specialists when they're big underdogs on the road, Craig. But this one opened at the Saints -7.5, and that's widened now to -9.5. So maybe I'm the only one seeing the potential upset here, but, maybe I'm just crazy or an elitist, either one.
Well, the Panthers were really bad at home against Atlanta last week, so I think that has a lot to do with this. Also, the Saints, after being shut out at home 2 weeks ago last week, exploded in Tampa Bay, winning in impressive fashion. One of the best games they've played all year. So I think the Saints are trending up, and maybe Carolina's trending down, so thus the line movement. I expect this line to go to the key number of 10. So if you like New Orleans, I would get in on it early.
All right, Lions at Redskins. Let's move on to that as the next game. The Redskins, they don't have a home field advantage whatsoever, do they? It's just non-existent. This one opened the Lions -1.5. It's now 3.5. Some big shifting going on there.
I'm actually surprised Detroit. Obviously, you have Detroit, to get 2 extra points, go through the key number. I know Washington's been very poor as of late, but they're at home as an underdog against a Detroit backup quarterback, and Detroit hasn't been that much better. So their secondary's been very questionable. Haskins at quarterback for the Washington Redskins. So I think the rookie has a big game here. I actually think the Redskins are the play here, even though they've played so poorly lately.
All right, last one we're going to do, the Ravens at the Rams, and McVay hired in 2017, 10-1 straight up against AFC teams, 7-3-1 against the spread. That streak ended earlier this season, but still we have Baltimore minus 3.5 favorites here. That looks like that hasn't shifted. That's shifted? Oh, it does, because I had it opening at 2.5. Has that gone from 2.5 to 3.5?
Well, there's actually some advanced lines that had this as a pick'em game.
Really?
But obviously, the way the Ravens have played the last 4 or 5 weeks, I mean, they've beat some of the best teams in the league, continue to be very impressive. I would imagine Lamar Jackson's probably the favorite to win the MVP this year if he continues to play the way he's playing. It's hard to fade or to go away from a team this hot right now. Baltimore favored at 3.5. I still think they're the play as far as early looking at this one on Monday.
All right, let's start let's move on to some college football. And Craig, as I'm looking at this list that you gave me before the show, there is a glaring error here. You have a major error here. You have UCLA at USC. You have not only USC as the favorites, but you have it widening from 10 to 13.5 favorites. Craig, are you mad, my friend? Are you mad?
Well, this wasn't me. I'm just reporting on it. USC was favored by 10. Now it's 13.5. USC has looked much better as the season has progressed. UCLA, until last week, at least been a kind of a point spread darling. Last week, didn't play their best football, I would say, but played a much tougher competition. What they'll see this week, I think these rivalry games have a way of being a lot closer than people think. I think early in the week you have to be looking, especially if this guy would ever get to that key number of 14. I think you have to jump on your UCLA Bruins.
Yes, UCLA. Gotta love them. Love everything about them, Craig. All right, Nebraska at Maryland. Nebraska shifted from -7 to -4, so a little tightening there. What's the story behind that?
Nebraska just hasn't been very good. Neither has Maryland, but Nebraska has been a huge disappointment. Remember, they were number 24 in the nation before the season started. Since then, they really haven't done much to talk about. Ever since that loss when they were up big to Colorado and gave it up on the road at Colorado, haven't really been able to turn it around since then.
All right, we just got about 4 more to do, so let's make it quick because we got 2 minutes. Michigan at Indiana. Michigan opened at -7. They're now -8.5.
Yeah, this one could be a stunner here. I remember Indiana almost beat Penn State last week. Michigan has the big game, of course, the game if you're around here, Ohio State on deck next week. And, Michigan, if they win that game, everything's still in front of them. So obviously this is a letdown spot here. The line moved from 7 to 8.5, Michigan favorite. Yeah, the Nittany Lions, there's a team whose record is definitely not necessarily indicative of their true value, but certainly maybe they got lucky a few times there. All right, TCU at Oklahoma. What are they? 9 and what are they? Penn State. They're well, it's off topic, but I think they've lost one game on the season, right? Yeah. Penn State they could beat Ohio State this week. They would control their own destiny as well.
Yes, they would. TCU at Oklahoma. All right, Craig, we got 1 minute. Oklahoma, what do you have on this one?
Moved from 19 to 17.5. Oklahoma favored here. Obviously, Oklahoma defense has been terrible. Haven't covered the last 2 weeks, so I think that has a lot to do with this line movement.
All right, Minnesota at Northwestern.
Minnesota's favored by open at 7 all the way up to 13. This Northwestern team been a huge disappointment after going to the Big Ten championship game last year.
And Tennessee at Missouri. This one was Missouri -7. That's narrowed to -5.
Yeah, a lot to say with the Vols have been much better as of late. Missouri didn't look good against Florida last week.
And finally, BYU at UMass. BYU was -42-point favorites. Now -39. What's the matter? UMass actually wake up and start practicing?
Oh, UMass has been really, really bad. I was surprised this line went down because BYU they have this one. They're going to roll in this one. I don't know, 40 seems like a lot, 39 seems like a lot either way.
All right, Craig, thank you so much. There's Craig Trapp. By the way, you can find lots of Craig's picks and, of course, his expert picks at picksandparlays.net. Go to the website, check it out, do yourself a favor, bet with some intelligence. And I'm not being an elitist, I'm just telling you, be smart. All right, we're going to take a break. Be right back after this. Welcome back, Picks and Parlays here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network. By the way, we're here with you each and every weekday from 4 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 1 p.m. Pacific. That's 1 hour every day of the week. Well, Monday through Friday, that is. I'm your host, Nick Geber, that elitist sitting on the seat for Chelsea Messenger, who's currently on maternity leave. Happy Republic of Latvia Proclamation Day today to our listeners and viewers out there. Well, you know, joining me now, a man who loves it when you call him Hig Papa, our very own Sean Higgy Smalls Higgs. Let's talk some college football. Sean, I'm going to put my hands in the air because you're a true player.
Are you elitist because you have the accent? Is that what it is? Is it the accent?
No. Apparently, I made some comment about the injuries that Alabama was suffering, and I said, with those 6 players out, that's probably half the population of the state. Well, one of our most appreciated viewers, Michael W., commented that he wanted to know who the elitist was, and quite right, Michael. I am indeed a complete snob and elitist, having gone to UCLA, the greatest school on the planet. Okay, Higgy, let's get to it, shall we? You ready to do some college football?
Let's go.
All right, let's start with NC State at Georgia Tech. NC State are 4-6, 2-7-1 against the spread. They fell to 4-6 after a 34-20 loss to Louisville. Devin Leary has 894 yards passing. Woof. Oh, dear. That's a shame. 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's hardly tearing it up, let's be honest. For Georgia Tech, they're 2-8, 2-7-1 against the spread. They got shut out 45-0, and they have the goal to show their face after that. That's a shocking thing by Virginia Tech on Saturday. This is their 3rd straight loss by Georgia Tech. Look, the under is cashed in 5 of Tech's last 6. I think the number on this one is Georgia Tech -1 with a total of 48.5. What say you, Higgy Smalls?
Yeah, I'm seeing like a 47-ish round of total, 48. And this total, and the sides actually moved. There was 1, it's 1.5. I see 2s now. And you mentioned a bad quarterback play for the Wolfpack. Georgia Tech not far behind with bad quarterback play.
Really?
Expected, though. You're getting away from the triple option. Whole new system. So there's going to be growing
That's James
pains.
Graham, right?
I have no idea.
I think that's Graham, the Georgia Tech quarterback. Yeah, not great.
They've used a couple different guys. They got last weekend's Virginia Tech. They had the freshman was in there. I mean, it is what it is. What strikes me here though is you got a team that has 2 wins, and you got NC State on the other side, 4 wins. Then I'm thinking, you know what? I got a 2-win team here, a must-win game if we want bowl eligibility. But I'm liking a home team here. I like Tech. Like you said, they got blasted last game. Here's a game they could win. State comes in with 4 straight losses. They got their own quarterback problems. Let's go with the home team here. They got Georgia up next. NC's got, State's got Carolina on the heel. So this is really basically their last chance to win some games. And I'm going to go home team here. So, I mean, it's a 2-win team laying points. That just sends up players for me to take. I mean, I know it's been a long year for the Ramblin' Wreck, but hey, Georgia Tech to get it done here.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I have to tell you. I mean, when I look at a team with a 2-8 record, I mean, who's really interested in seeing them in a bowl game other than the Georgia Tech supporters? I mean, really? I mean, come on.
And it's funny, like Tech won.
That's my elitist philosophy.
Tech's dropped over 100 points on these guys. 56-23, 45-35. Tech rolled them the last 2 years. So you'd think maybe NC State shows up a little bit here. I don't know. I'm thinking Tech's going to win this game. This is a game, again, 45-0. Pick yourself up by your britches. Let's go. Let's get a win. You're not beating Georgia to close out the season. Get this win. Close the year out on a positive note and move on. It's going to take some while to get this program back on track. I mean, they were always a bowl team before.
Right.
They were a good team. But times are changing. We talk about it all the time. They air this ball out and just frown on running the ball. And unless you're a service academy, or New Mexico or something, triple options really finding not finding many landing spots here in college football.
All right. Next game is a fascinating one for me because this is the game I think where the Nittany Lions get found out. I mean, they're playing the best offense in the country, Ohio State 10-0, 8-2 against the spread. Penn State 9-1, 5-5 against the spread. I mean, Ohio State are prohibitive favorites here, a highest scoring team in the country, as I mentioned. And Penn State, I mean, look, they're lucky to be 9-1 after a squeaker against the Hoosiers last week. They've had certainly the benefit of schedule, I think, at this point. And I think that is why Ohio State are such prohibitive favorite. I mean, they're 18.5-point favorites on this, the total of 59.5 points. Is that how you see it, Sean?
Yep, I'm seeing 18 and a half. I see 19s in some spots. Funny, like I saw like an opening number. I mean, maybe it was over the summer number of 13 on this game, which is insane. I mean, like Ohio State, they put 50 up. It's like it's their job. It is their job to put 50 points up, and that's what they've been doing all year. That's why they got the best offense in football. I'm going to have to lay the points here until somebody slows down. Listen, Rutgers put up basically the most points ever for this season on Ohio State, which is I didn't think they're going to score, 10 points, more or less 21. But like, listen, Penn State eked out a game last week. This is prime look ahead spot. You're laying 50 points on the road. Ohio State didn't get it done. Penn State didn't get it done. Obviously, this is where the focus is. But good luck. Who slowed down Ohio State? Michigan going to slow them down? No whiskey, nobody. And until somebody does, I'm going to lay. I'm not three. We're not even laying 3 touchdowns. That's like a gimme, right? I mean, how do you not lay?
Penn State did not look, and Penn State did not look good against Minnesota and Indiana. So I mean, they just.
Yeah. Well, listen, they've given up. They lost 31, right? They lost to Minnesota there, 27 to Indiana, and now you're facing a better offense. Also against who they play, like Michigan or whatever. That was a close game they had. Michigan was on them, and this is team. And it's tough to say, well, Ohio State did this to this team, and Penn State did that. Those are bad. I don't really like to use that, and a lot of people don't. But it's still talent pools. What you're looking at when you talk about like a Michigan and Wisconsin and Nebraska, the talent level is still an equal kind of level. I mean, your Bama's, LSU's, they still kind of get all 4- and 5-star recruits. It's not like these are some upstart program. Or Minnesota's more of an upstart. Like haven't been great for the last 5 years, like these other programs. But Ohio State, they're just on another level. They're clearly on another level this year. I don't see them. I'd lay 20 here. I think this is a 3-touchdown game minimum. I mean, no one's been close. I don't think it's on the road. Penn State's not like it's a friendly confines or anything here. And listen, the scores have been close. 27-26, 39-28. Penn State won 24-21. So taking the points, it looks really good. Why wouldn't you take the points? Because Penn State's been competitive right down to the wire in these games. But I don't know. Ohio State this year really looks like a championship caliber team like them, LSU, even Clemson. Those 3 are clearly head and shoulders above everybody else.
And of course, UCLA. Down. I mean, if UCLA were to play Ohio State, I mean, they would beat them by about 386 to nothing. It would be a shutout, clearly. But, we're not going to see that game, of course, because they rig it so that we can't see that game. Okay. All right.
You can't even get UCLA in Utah.
Quiet you. Okay. Let's go. Next up, Texas A&M versus Georgia. Look, A&M had a tough schedule. They've got Georgia Saturday, then they got LSU next Saturday. It's got to be a couple of weeks that they are not looking forward to. They're 0-3 straight up versus top 10 teams, and they're 7-0 against everybody else. And I think I was telling you about Texas A&M. And I think it's important, by the way. I mean, you have to beat the teams that you should beat. And, if you can beat the team that maybe should beat you, well, then that's just, a feather in the cap, right? And they are doing that. For Georgia, the last 4, the Bulldogs have allowed only 7.8 points per game. I'm going to repeat that. The last 4 games, Georgia have allowed under 8 points a game. Higgy Smalls, that is a wild number. Their defense is on fire. A&M are 7-3, 6-4 against the spread, and of course Georgia 9-1. I mean, compare 9-1 records, right? Georgia against Penn State. Make a comparison.
Between the two, Georgia's better. I mean, just the defense. They're the number 2 scoring defense to Ohio State. I mean, that's where you separate it when it comes to defensive levels. I mean, this Georgia team is really good. It's defense. It's pound the ball, running backs. Fromm does enough to win you games. I mean, it's been like this since Mark Richt was there. That's what kind of program it is. Always defensively an elite unit, and they are. I mean, come on, Ohio State's putting up less than 10 a game. These guys are doing 8 points a game for the year, 10.5 points a game, something crazy like that over the course of 10 games. That's unheard of. That's SEC. I don't care how good. If you're a bottom feeder in the SEC, it's still SEC 3-star 4. I mean, you're still allowing no points basically. I mean, 10 points a game. That's
not as good as the Pac-12, but yeah.
That's crazy. And then, but let's talk about A&M for a second. I mean, Jimbo leaves Florida State, where all the guy had to do there was beat Clemson. Then he comes here to the SEC. He opens up versus Clemson, loser there. Alabama loser. He's got LSU. He's got Georgia, Auburn. Loser there. This guy's got to win a big game. I mean, can you win a game? At the beginning of the year, they had this like win total. I'm like, you have to go under here. I mean, at best, they got 7 wins because they could beat, against, you said, the teams they're supposed to beat. But here comes Clemson. Here comes Auburn. Here comes Alabama. Here comes Georgia, LSU. This is like 8-5 written all over it, or 7-4. But I like them with the points here, though. I'm going to take the 13 points because they play these games close. 24-10, 28-20. They're close games. So I'm getting, 13 points. I'll take a shot with A&M just because, listen, Jimbo needs some signature wins here.
Yeah, he does.
They talk about, he's doesn't have any big upset wins at home, nothing on the road. So, I don't know when the fans are going to get a little antsy. The alumni might get a little antsy. Like,
I mean, they're 0
paying you a lot of money
against top 10 teams, and then they're 7-0 against everybody else. All right, we're out of time. Yeah. Sean, so you're going to take the points. You're going to take Georgia minus 13, right?
No, I'm taking A&M.
Oh, pardon me, you're taking A&M. Oh, pardon me, yeah, A&M.
Yes.
Okay. All right, you got it. All right, there you have it. Higgy Smalls, our very own superstar of the handicapping world. You can find him and loads of other 35 expert handicappers we have on our site. Got to go to break. I'll be right back with more. Welcome back to Picks and Parlays here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, also streaming live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. That's live video. You get to see my beautiful face. I'm Nick Geber. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Geber, unsurprisingly. Love to hear from you. Many people commenting to me and sending me tweets. Many of them rude, I might add, but that's all right. I'm not that thin-skinned. I can take it. All right, he is Tigray. Hear him roar. Want to welcome to the show one of our star handicappers, Tony Tigray Tellez. Tony, happy Republic of Latvia Proclamation Day.
Yes, and same to you. And of course, to Arturs Urbe, who was a Latvian goaltender for the San Jose Sharks. I looked that one up. I wonder who the famous Latvians were, and I found one.
I don't know, but you're right. Arturs Urbe was a famous goaltender for the San Jose Sharks. I think there are quite a few Latvians in the NHL. All right, we are going to do some NBA and some college basketball, Tony. You want to start with the NBA and then move to the collegiate ranks? Usually it's the other way. You know, you start in college and you do 1 year and you go to the NBA. But we'll go the NBA and then go get an education afterwards, shall we? Let's start, shall we, Tony? Suns, 7-4, 9-2 against the spread against the Kings. 5-7, 7-5 against the spread. Suns coming off a 128-112 win against the Hawks. They play the Celtics tonight, if I'm not mistaken. And they're 3.5-point favorites for that game. The Kings, they won 100-99 squeaker. Ooh, squeaky bum time there to Boston, also to the Celtics. Hey, the Celtics are playing spoilers in this whole narrative we're doing here, Tony. Kings, I have Kings -2, total points 220. How do you see this one?
Yeah, Nick, I'm going to go here with the Suns here at +2. I know it's a back-to-back spot, but it's in the number. It's baked in the number there. But, you know, the Suns in their lone back-to-back, they pounded Golden State 121-110 on the road. And that was with Stephen Curry, D'Angelo Russell, and Draymond Green in the lineup. So the Warriors had many of their players in the lineup for that one. And one thing with these Suns, they're a really good shooting team right now. Past 5 games, 49% from the field, 40% from 3. You know, and I always look at their high volume shooters, and they're getting great production out of them. Devin Booker, nearly 54%. Kelly Oubre, 48%. Aaron Baines, 57%. You know, Phoenix has covered 5 straight against losing teams. Suns, 5th best in the league in efficiency ratings. And, of course, Nick, the big news here with the Kings, major injury to their all-star guard, De'Aaron Fox, out for a month with an ankle injury. Marvin Bagley out until early December. And they were the 2 of the 3 highest volume shooters for the Kings. And the replacements, Nick, don't shoot the ball as well.
Right, exactly. And the Kings are certainly struggling this season, one would say. A bit of a surprise if you're a Kings fan. All right, so let's move along. Next one. Let's do the Golden State Warriors against the Memphis Shizzle Grizzlies. Golden State 2-12, 5-8-1 against the spread against Memphis, 5-8, 5-8 against the spread. Warriors are 0-7 straight up in the last 7. Memphis 2-4 against the spread in the last 6 at home. Total is 222. I see Memphis -6.5. Tigray, what do you see?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing it too. And I'll go with the home team here, Memphis -6.5. We know that Curry and Klay Thompson are out, but also out will be guard D'Angelo Russell with a thumb injury. And really, the Warriors' current form right now really poor, just 27% from three-point line. Defensively, they've been terrible in that span of games, allowing over 48% shooting, nearly 43% from 3. They're not guarding the perimeter. And one thing about Memphis, they're a really good shooting team in that window of 5 games, hitting 50%. And that rookie, Jay Morant, Nick, he's the highest volume shooter on Memphis. He's hitting over 47%, 42% from 3. Those are outstanding numbers, Nick, because, you know, in the NBA, it's kind of tough on rookies. And Jay Morant shooting at high volume and producing.
Yeah, interesting stuff. All right, let's go. Let's move along to some college basketball. This one, actually a very interesting matchup. And you curated this one, I think, Tony T. Vermont 4-0 against Virginia 4-3. Vermont coming off a win at St. John's. And look, and for Vermont, as Anthony Lamb goes, so Vermont goes. He's averaging, 18 points a game. Virginia, they lost a lot of last year's championship team. They are rebuilding, but look, they're a big team. They're a deep team, and they're physically a big, imposing team. That could play to their advantage, obviously, unless Vermont can knock down an awful lot of threes. This is a really interesting game. I'm really looking forward to watching this game from a fan's perspective, but from a betting perspective, is 15-point favorites a little much for Virginia, you think?
Yeah, it's a little bit too much. I'm not going to lay the points there with Virginia because I respect Vermont. I respect them defensively, and you mentioned their senior players. I do respect them. I'm going to go to under the total of 115 because we have two pretty good defensive teams on the court. We'll tell you a little bit about Vermont. They've made the NCAA tournament in 2 of their past 3 seasons. They've only lost 4 America East Conference games the past 3 seasons, which are impressive. You know, they are 4-0 to the under. And they defended well against some pretty good opposition. I mean, as you mentioned, they faced St. John's on Saturday. They do have wins against good mid-major programs in St. Bonnie's and Bucknell. Those games on the road, they did win at home to Boston U. And, of course, we talked about the defense holding teams at 59 points, 34% shooting, 19% from 3. So Vermont, well, they did lose players, but they plug them in with transfers and players from their bench. So these are players that are very familiar with their system. Catamounts have built depth in this program. But Virginia, defending national champion off to a 3-0 start, head coach Tony Bennett, well, he fills his departing players with bench players who know this system, and it's a stout defensive system at Virginia. The under is cashed in all 3 games. First 2 victories, they held Syracuse and James Madison each to 34 points. And on Saturday, 42 points at Columbia. And defensive numbers are strong here for Virginia, holding teams at 25% shooting, 23% from 3. I got to play on defense here, Nick. I like the under here, under 115, Vermont and Virginia.
Yeah, and you know, for Virginia, I mean, you talk about defense. I mean, they've got this enormous Mamadi Diakite, right? I mean, what's he doing? A little under 15 points a game and 9 rebounds a game. I mean, I think the under's a really good call on this one, Tony.
Yeah, it's under a call, and of course, Virginia, they're a very good perimeter defensive team. You know, when you face the likes of Duke, North Carolina, you better be able to defend the perimeter. And that's one thing about this Tony Bennett system is they're very good at perimeter defense. And, of course, sealing that 3-point line and knowing that, you know, they can only be hurt with 3 and they'll be extra focused in this game guarding the perimeter. And of course, if Vermont tries to go to the hole, it's going to be really tough. You know, when you're facing, you know, a defending NCAA champion with their not only their length, but it's the wingspan. You know, these players with these long arms, you know, it can be very difficult getting a shot around the basket for these Catamounts.
All right, Tony, that's what we had selected for our basketball picks for today. Since I got you here, and I'm absolutely fascinated with a couple of these college football matchups that we actually spoke about in the last segment, I'd love to get your take on them. I am really looking forward to this Penn State-Ohio State game. You know, Ohio State is an exciting football team to watch. They come out with lots of scoring. I mean, this is number one offense in the country, right? Penn State, you know, that 9-1 record, lots of people questioning it. How do you see this game?
Well, one thing I noticed here, I think if Penn State has a shot, it's going to be through the air. But Clifford has not been accurate his last 2 games. I think he's completing just about 52% of his passes. This is what happens here in some of these major conference Knicks. They kind of schedule back heavy, so you're going to be facing your toughest opponents at the end of the season. And Clifford just hasn't got his accuracy down here. And I think that's going to be the difference here. You know, Ohio State's speed is something also you got to consider. And, you know, I'm there with Sean here. I would go ahead and lay it there with Ohio State because I just think they're getting better quarterback play right now at this moment.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's interesting you mentioned Clifford. He's completing only 52% of his passes. That is not good enough, particularly you know, when you have to put points on the board because you know Ohio State are going to do exactly that. It's going to put a lot of pressure on him. This is going to be a fascinating game to watch, one that I'm really interested to see. We'll make that a appointment viewing for me, no doubt about it. And finally, I wanted to look at one other game that we already covered, the Texas A&M Georgia game. This is another interesting matchup. How do you see this one? Because I think Sean Higgy Smalls took what, A&M minus what was it, A&M minus 14 or something like that?
It was plus the points. Yeah,
well,
you like the dog. Actually, I like.
Excuse me, A&M plus the points.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble looking. I need new glasses, but that's a different matter.
Yeah, you know, I like the favorite Georgia in this team. As you mentioned about Georgia's defense, they're really strong. One thing I've always noticed with Texas A&M since they've come to the SEC, they always look undersized when they face some of these big teams like your Alabamas, your Auburns, and of course your Georgia here. I think the issue here is going to be with the physicalness here of Georgia. I think it's going to be too much on Texas A&M. You know, they have not stepped up. When you look at A&M and their step-up games against Clemson and Alabama, they just did not get the job done offensively. I think it's going to come down to the fact that Georgia runs the ball they run the ball very well at home, and I think the run game is going to work against this A&M defense that has struggles defending the run against Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Alabama. They're past the 3 SEC opponents. Look at the way they defend the run here. I think Georgia's going to be able to grind the ball out and, again, get some late touchdowns here on the ground against an A&M defense that'll wear out in the second half.
Do you think there's anything that A&M can take over Georgia's loss to South Carolina? Anything they can take out of that?
Well, the thing is it was one of those early starts, and everyone talks about that. They don't like to get that. When it's a noon kickoff in the South, it's usually 11 a.m. as in the Central Time Zone, and sometimes it's hard for these players to because they're used to playing these primetime games. It's either the 3:30 Eastern or the late night primetime games, and it looked to me that the Georgia was just flat. It was just a no-show. They didn't have any. There wasn't much emotion from them. And kind of a fluky result, probably the flukiest results of the year. But no, I just think you have to look here at the current form right now for Georgia. They're going to be in the championship game, but you don't want to have 2 losses. That's one thing Georgia has to worry about. They've got to keep winning. Yeah,
they got to keep winning, don't they? Although with their defense, with their defense, they certainly relax the pressure on the offense to put the points up. But by the way, Capo17 Don says, picks and parlays, hire me as a capper. Let me point out, Capo17 Don, we have nothing but the absolute best cappers that there are at picks and parlays. El Tigre, Tony Tellez being one of them. If you want to be a capper at picks and parlays, you have to have a proven history, track record of success, and we are totally transparent. You want to know what our cappers are doing? Just go on the site. You'll see it. When they win, they win. When there's rare occasions they don't, it'll be up there as well. Being transparent is what it's about. There are lots of people make lots of claims out there. Let me tell you something. Most of them are complete rubbish. Not at picksandparlays.net. Our guys, they are the absolute best in the business. And I'm not going to ask Tony to comment on that because he is one of those guys, and I wouldn't want him to seem too smug and self-congratulatory. But, okay, Tony, comment on that.
Yeah, well, great. Yeah, you can check out picksandparlays.net. The top cappers there are over there. And as Nick said, everyone's documented. You go back there and check the handicapper, click the handicapper tabs, and you'll see all the records. The past 10 games are there, and you can click through and see every play that's ever posted by the cappers over at picksandparlays.net.
Yeah, and that's so important, by the way. By the way, we do have a college basketball special. It's $4.49. It's going on from now till the end of the college basketball season. I think that's still going on. But since I said it, guess what? It's going on because that's the way it works. And if you'd like to get some of Tony's picks or some of Sean Higgs' picks or some of Craig Trapp's picks or some of the cappers we have on the show, we have Triple B, of course, Tony Brown. We have Chip.
Duffmeister.
Chirimbus. I mean, listen. I know I'm missing guys, Tony. I'm missing.
Sean, we got Joe Duffy. Duffy.
Yeah, of course, the Duff Man. Of course, the Duff Man. By the way, condolences to Joe. He lost a family member, and we wish him all the best. Our thoughts are with him. We will look forward to having him back on the show when he is.
And you're going to like better. Alex Smart, by the way. And Alex Smart's going to debut this week. You're going to like his commentary. He's a professional bettor first, handicapper second. It's really good perspective from a professional bettor who moves lines.
And last name is Smart. He's at picksandparlays.net. All right, that's going to wrap up the segment. Tony, thank you so much. Up next, we're going to recap all of today's picks. Stay tuned. Get a pen and paper. Let's do it. Be right back after this. Welcome back to the show, Picks and Parlays. I'm your host, Nick Geber, in for Chelsea Messenger. Find me on Twitter, at Nick Geber. We've had a show jam-packed with free picks, as we do every day of the week at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. on the left coast. Be sure to tune in, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, whether it's on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, whether it's on iHeartRadio or TuneIn, or if you miss the show, you can always check it out on replay, either on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, where obviously the video lies, or you can see it, or if you want to listen to it in audio podcast form, our podcasts are up immediately following the show at the Believe, B-L-E-A-V, podcast network. Okay, let's recap the picks in case you missed them. We started off with Craig Trapp, and we did some opening line reports, and then we moved to Sean Higgs for our college football picks. We had NC State at Georgia. He said take Georgia Tech -1.5. Penn State at Ohio State. He said take Ohio State -18. A&M at Georgia. He said take A&M +13. A&M +13. That was Sean Higgs. And El Tigre himself, Tony Tellez. We had a couple NBA picks. Warriors at Grizzlies. Take the Grizzlies -6.5. Suns at Kings. Take the Suns +2. And we also had a college basketball pick for this very interesting game, Vermont at Virginia. He said, take the under. That's under 115. Those are the points. Just a reminder, check us out at picksandparlays.net. You'll find Tony Tellez. You'll find Sean Higgs. You'll find Craig Trapp. You'll find Chip Chirimbus. You'll find Sean Duffy. You're going to find Tony Brown and Alex Smarts, a new cap, will be joining us this week. And you can find them on the website, picksandparlays.net. We've got lots of free picks for you at picksandparlays.net. And when you're ready to kick it up a notch, we have expert picks for you to subscribe to. Look, if you're going to bet on sports, number one, do it responsibly. Number two, do it with the best information you can possibly get. You get that at picksandparlays.net. And right here on this show, Picks and Parlays, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Until tomorrow, enjoy the rest of Latvian Proclamation Day. I know I will. We'll speak to you tomorrow.